Hey YouTube, Kira Qualia here, bringing you all my Great Omnioji Hao Shaman King Cardfight Vanguard deck profile. This is the start of the many different deck profiles we have for the Shaman King title booster. This one I decided to focus on Hao first. It was one of the first cards I pulled from the set, so I just had the motivation to start off with this deck first. The Hao deck focuses on using the Great Spirit of Fire along with your main go-to Grade 3 Vanguard, which is Great Omnioji Hao, as your means to just eliminate all of your opponent's rear guards, which is exactly what Hao did in the series as well, sacrificing all of the people that the Great Spirit of Fire, basically got rid of, and ate the souls of those units to make them much more powerful. And that's what this deck does as well, increasing the critical count, and then just being able to set up your Hao's followers on the rear guard as well for those plays. So let's go ahead and get started with the deck profile. So for the ride deck, our starter is Ambition for the Shaman Kingdom, Hao, just like all the starters in D format. When rode upon, if you went second, you draw a card. Our grade 1 is Immeasurable Mana, Hao. When this unit is rode upon by Merciless Smile, Hao, you look at the top 7 cards of your deck, choose up to 1 card with Spirit of Fire and its card name from among them, reveal it and put it into your hand. So with this, you have the search power to go for one of the important cards in the deck, being the Spirit of Fire. Our grade 2 is Merciless Smile, Hao. When this unit is rode upon by Great Omnioji Hao, choose up to 1 Shaman from your drop and call it to rear. So with all the different Hao's followers we run in this deck, you at least have those additional numbers to call on to the rear guard after, let's say, you discarded them for the ride cost for the ride deck. With our grade 3 being Great Omnioji Hao, along with the copy in the ride deck, I do want to run 3 additional copies. Sadly, I was only able to pull 2 of the cards. So in place of the Great Omnioji Hao, if you are still collecting your numbers of this card as well, you can put in 2 Rain of Hellfire, Spirit of Fire as add backups, because once again, it is another card that can be searched for the Spirit of Fire. But still, with Great Omnioji Hao on the Vanguard, once per turn, you look at the top 2 cards of your deck just by counterblasting 1 and call each of them to the rear or discard them. So you don't really run too many orders in this deck, so you should be able to call a good number of units onto the field. And then Hao's Oversoul on the Vanguard, once per turn, you put a rear guard with the Spirit of Fire and its card name into your soul. This unit gets plus 10,000 to end of turn. Then bind 3 rear guards, choose a card with Spirit of Fire and its card name from your soul or drop zone, call it to the back row, center rear guard, and that unit can attack from the back row until the end of the turn. So with this, you have maximum number of attacks alone being 4, with this being able to attack with that Spirit of Fire from the back row rear guard. The most ideal Spirit of Fire you do want to run is the 5 Grand Elemental Spirits. Spirit of Fire, I have 3 Impaling Punishment, Boris Tepes Dracula, as a spot holder for this card. You definitely want to run 4 copies of the Spirit of Fire. On the rear guard, when your opponent's rear guard is retired by your card effect, if you have a unit with Hao and its card name, you may soul charge 1. This can build up just more soul for you to use with your resources, and also just being able to then choose a card with Spirit of Fire from Great Omnioji Hao. This is the one you want to go for, because when this unit attacks a Vanguard, if you have a unit with Hao and its card name, it gets plus 20,000 power and critical plus 1 until the end of that battle. Being the unit you attack with, it'll be your final all-out attack against your opponent, more than likely, with this being able to hit some pretty big numbers alone. So yeah, definite 4 of for this card. Moving on now to the grade 2s. For the grade 2s, one of the best ones for the deck is Voodoo Mare, Matilda Matisse. When this unit is placed on rear, if you have a grade 3 or greater Vanguard with Hao and its card name, you Soul Blast 1, search your deck for drop for up to 1 Trick or Treat Jack, call it to rear, and if you search your deck, shuffle your deck. And when this unit is bound for rear guard for the ability of your Vanguard with Hao and its card name, you can put it into your soul, building up the soul power with Hao's own skill with this card, since basically Hao's followers will be willing to sacrifice themselves for Hao, and with it you have search for a grade 1 booster, which can also provide more power for your Matilda Matisse on the field, but still a definite 4 of for this card. I also run 3 copies of First Aaron Opacho with this card. When this unit is put on the guard circle from hand, if you have a Vanguard with Hao and its card name, discard a card from your hand, and this unit gets plus 15,000 shield till end of the battle. So basically the card that defends Hao. So you want 3 copies of this just so you had the added support of being able to protect your Vanguard. And also when this unit is bound from rear by the ability of your Vanguard with Hao and its card name, you can counterblast 1 to put it into your hand. So with just another card to be able to be put into the hand, cards like Matilda can be put into the soul. You have just another card to then call Apacho onto the field, use her for an attack, and then place her back into your hand after you bound her for Hao's skill. So she still has plenty of use on your turn when you're going for the attack, and then can be used as defense later on. I also run 3 copies of Future King Hao, helping with the Soul Blast power. On rearguard, once per turn, you can Soul Blast 3, choose one of your opponent's rearguards, retire it, and this unit gets critical +1 until the end of that turn. So even just when your opponent's rearguard is retired by your card effect, you can Soul Charge with your Spirit of Fire already being on the field, and then using Future King Hao to then just gain the additional critical pressure, having one of your front row rearguards be one of the ones that your opponent may want to guard against, just having that additional critical to begin with. For some more of Hao's followers, I am also running 3 copies of Big Touchdown Big Guy Bill. When this unit is bound from the rear by the ability of your Vanguard with Hao and its card name, you can Soul Blast 1 and choose one of your opponent's front row rear guards and retire it. So more retire power with this card, and using the Spirit of Fire, if this is the card that you bound and then retire something, you have a Soul Charge if this card is already on the field as well. Also, to finish off the grade 1s, run 1 copy of Calm and Provocative Turbine. When this unit is bound from the rearguard by the ability of your Vanguard with Hao and its card name, you can Counter Blast 1, Soul Blast 1, choose one of your opponent's rearguards, retire all of your opponent's rearguards in the same column as that card. So you can always adjust the copies of Big Guy Bill with this card as well. Just being for a Soul Charge, I like Big Guy Bill because you don't have to use the Counter Blast as well with this card. You can save it for your great Omnioji Hao. That's why I'm only running 1 Turbine, so you at least have this option available to you as another bound card. And then moving on now to the grade 1s. For the grade 1 count, I am running 3 copies of Trick or Treat Jack. When this unit is placed on rear, if you have a Voodoo Mare Matilda Matisse on your rear guard, you may draw a card. If you drew, choose a card from your hand and put it into your soul, building up more of the soul power thanks to this card, but being able to fully rely on Matilda Matisse for this gives you more of the draw power for hand consistency while still providing a boost to one of your rear guards and another potential card after she called it out to then be bound by Hao. And then the other grade 1 that you run in the deck is just your Sentinel count. Now these, you have the 2 different ones. You have your Ultra Senji, Art of Direction, which is the villain Sentinel. So I would say this is the most fitting one to run in the deck. And then using the Hao Asakura one for the Heroes deck. But still, 4 copies of this card, just having the standard Sentinel skill for D format. When placed on the guard circle, if your hand has 2 or more cards, choose a card from your hand, discard it, meaning you can at least save one of them in your hand if it's the only other card in your hand to guard against your opponent's other attacks. And then for the orders that I run in the deck, I run 2 copies of Strong Foe in the Way. With this card, if you have 1 or more of each units with Hao and its card name, and 5 Grand Elemental Spirit, Spirit of Fire on your Vanguard or Rearguard, play this with a Counter Blast 1 and retire all of your opponent's rearguards. So this is just using the 5 Grand Elemental Spirits, Spirit of Fire, and Hao at their fullest, being able to just wipe out all of your opponent's rearguards. I only run 2 of this though. It's pretty situational. You really want to use it at the most when your opponent has a full field, because then you can just wipe out all of them. If they only have 1 or 2 rearguards, I wouldn't say this is not really the best option. And plus it also is a Counter Blast of 1, which is another justification for why I run Big Guy Bill in bigger numbers over Turbine, since Big Guy Bill only needs a Soul Blast. And then moving on now to the triggers. The Spirit of Fire is definitely needed for the Oversoul. So I am running 3 Scorching Rain, Spirit of Fire, and also 3 copies of Sealed Ultra Senji Hyakutsu. With this card, you have the Soul Charge power with this, but still, I may even increase the number of Spirit of Fire because, once again, it's what you want to Oversoul with, so having a bigger number of this is definitely important. With the draw being the base form Spirit of Fire, I know we have the 5k shield draw, but this is just so much more important for Oversoul in this deck, so I prefer this over the rare draw trigger with the 5k guard skill. I also run 1 copy of Blessing of the Great Spirit, just for more of an additional power option for them. If you wanted to take this card out, you can always run a 4th copy of Spirit of Fire. And then for the heal, following the trend for the Spirit of Fire, just the 4 of the Suikoka Spirit of Fire. It's the water form of the Spirit of Fire. And once again, having Spirit of Fire in its name means that you can use it for the Oversoul with Hao, with the final card of the deck being the Overtrigger, which is the close pair under the Moonlit Night, with the additional effect when you reveal it for your drive check, choosing one of your opponent's vanguards and dealing 1 damage to it. And then even have the play effect if it's in your hand to then play it and then retire all of your opponent's rearguards. Very, very useful in the deck that focuses on retiring skills with Hao and the Spirit of Fire. But that is it for the deck profile. I hope you all enjoyed. This is just the start of many different Shaman King decks for Cardfight Vanguard, so I hope you all stay tuned for it, especially if you're a fan of the Shaman King anime. And as always, until next time, please don't forget to leave a like and subscribe, and Kira Qualia out.